Welcome to another episode of the Online Prosperity Experience podcast. You're about to hear your host, Prosper Taravinga's powerful digital marketing strategies and actionable tactics that you can use right now. Prosper has helped more than 50,000 people from over 10 countries to create meaningful businesses that are profitable and enjoyable. Listen to this podcast so that you too can build your own business with less stress and overwhelm. Let's get started.
It's time to stop measuring things that don't matter or measuring metrics that we don't need to keep track of in our marketing. And I can imagine as a coach, consultant, or small to medium business owner, we always have some sort of scorecard that we need to keep. We always have to have a measure of knowing whether we've arrived at a destination that we've given ourselves. And I know this personally because I'm helping a lot of coaches, consultants, and small to medium businesses with their content marketing, with their digital marketing, with their SEO, with their social media. And each and every one of those facets presents some sort of matrix or some sort of number they need to keep track of, which benchmarks them against the rest of the industry. And it's not their fault. You know what I mean? We are all wanting to maybe get a return of our investment or to actually see if we're progressing in life. And I'm here to tell you that, most of the things that we're measuring don't matter. We're measuring things that don't even, help us progress, except just feed our ego into thinking that we're actually making a difference. Now, I stand corrected, okay? Some people in my industry actually make a living touting and promoting these numbers just to make people feel insecure about the work that they're putting out there. I am a visceral believer that if you're creating for and relating to your audience, nobody can put a number to that. If you're creating for and relating to your audience, this is something that cannot be measured, okay? Here at Live Long Digital, you'll find resources that you need to tell your story. How can you measure that? To communicate your value, how can you put a number to that? And to put together a marketing strategy that converts clients. Tell me something. When a customer starts their marketing journey with you or their buyer's journey with you, what are you measuring? What exact pit stops are you putting a number to, that you can calculate later on, that if they're traveling at this speed and they're consuming this much content, by the 5th of January, they'll be my client. So you notice that most of these things that we tend to focus on are very useless use of our creative brains. And I was reading Eckhart Tolle's book at some point, and it was saying that people actually stop being creative because they're thinking too much. So if you're using the part of your brain that wants to really hold on to facts and figures and benchmarks and everything else, I can tell that you're not going to succeed the most, in your industry, because you're just wanting to do enough so you can meet a certain quota, a certain number, and people that just do enough literally don't go far or further in any industry, because it's easy to measure. It's easy to know that, okay, if I run 25 kilometers, then this is a marathon. If I run 50 kilometers, then this is the end of the marathon. There's nothing more that you will do after that. Even people talk about Roger Bannister, how he made it a point that he reaches the mile in, is it in 2 minutes or something of that nature? You know what I mean? When there's a benchmark that people want to reach, they do everything to reach that benchmark, and then pretty much after that, they don't know what to do with themselves. And that's not the best way to be actually running a business that's profitable and enjoyable. And it's not your fault, because the system is set up, to trap people that chase a proverbial metric. The system in and of itself is lazy, all right? They don't want to go in and learn what everybody else is doing. They just have a standard measure just so that everybody tries and, lives up to that standard. And that's about it. So the system in and of itself is rigged and it's lazy, but those that venture beyond what the system predicates, those that venture beyond what is stipulated by society, are the people that actually make history. And I think you, my friend, as an internet explorer, you stand a chance to actually make history, because those people that venture beyond are the people that actually find the gold. Okay, so I keep repeating that the system is lazy. It really just focuses on things that are easy to measure. Okay, a distance between two cities, the distance between the road, the length of a bus, all of those things. When you create something from the heart, when you create something, from the way you feel and your energy and everything, it doesn't matter if it's a 2-minute video or a 2-hour video. Those that want to engage with you will engage. Okay, so if you're going to be measuring yourself against somebody else who was lazy and created some sort of a standard, then you, my friend, will never sit at the table of those that have actually changed people's lives and made a difference. Okay, so there's what's called the rule of thumb, right? If you look at your thumb right now, no way is it the same size as my own thumb. All right, so how can that rule of thumb then dictate what it is that you're going to be doing with your business? Okay, you don't have the same fingerprint as mine, so how can that be a rule? The same fingerprint on your thumb is not the same fingerprint that I have. So how can we set that to be the standard of measuring what we need to be doing, especially with our content, with our connection, and actually creating for and relating to our audience? So like I keep saying, the system is lazy. It really just focuses on the things that are easy to measure and how fast. Maybe they measure on how fast you can type. And, if you can't type but you can speak, then in the world of those that type, you are a nobody. But if in the world of those that can speak, you are a king. And it doesn't make sense. All right. And then they measure you based on the score on the test that maybe came to you because you were anxious on the day and you failed. Or maybe you were not feeling good on that particular day, but throughout the whole year, you were really good at that history lesson, that mathematics lesson. You were really good at that, college degree that you were doing. But on the day that you were put in a small room that has got little ventilation and natural light, you couldn't perform in your natural state. You know why? Because you're anxious about the result that they were looking at it. And that's how we measure people walking around the world right now, based on how they can cram or how they can, regurgitate, memorized information. That's your doctor. That's your lawyer. And if that's you as well, who is basing your craft and your practice on a piece of paper that's sitting on a wall, you, my friend, have not started. And you might think I'm yelling at you. I'm not. I'm just angry at the system. And also, why I do this podcast is because people would have come to me. I just came off a call and somebody was saying, so how are we going to measure the SEO? How are we going to measure if the content marketing is working? And then I was just looking at them and I'm like, dude, do you really want to run this business, or do you want to run numbers? Because if you just want to run numbers, literally there are numbers that you can download on the internet. Go and fight and win those ones. But if you want to really create something of note, if you want to do work that matters for people who care, you will cut any numbers that come along with your business, whether it's the sales. Any number is not a natural phenomenon when you're actually doing things out of love. How do you measure how you love your daughter? How do you measure how you love your wife? Do you measure it by the amount you pay for gifts? How do you actually measure that? How do you measure the love your parents had for you growing up? That's the same love that we should have for those people that we're creating for and relating to. And yet we're sitting here measuring email downloads. We're measuring, how many clicks people have done on the internet. We're measuring Facebook likes. We're measuring ad impressions. We're measuring any impressions that the website might have. We're measuring blog comments. All of that stuff that doesn't even matter. Or we're measuring how fast we're typing, and then we're scoring ourselves against other human beings. Of course, we are competitive in nature, but when you're out there creating a business that's going to last a taste of time, you don't measure that stuff. You can't measure, but I'm going to measure that it's been 9 minutes and I don't think I've said anything. and maybe you're already measuring, okay, I don't have time to keep listening to what this guy said. But let me tell you something. In the land of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. All right. So one way for us to move forward is to learn what's called discernment. Okay. And you can discover a lot of overlooked value in your industry by measuring things that are difficult to measure. Sitting here every single day and putting out a podcast, I'm not measuring what the industry standard does. I'm not measuring what people actually do in a podcast. I just sit here and give that value. Whoever is listening, I'm not going to watch how many subscribers I have, because you know what? There's 10 or 15 different platforms where this podcast goes. If I just look at Spotify, then I'm missing out on my channel, audience that's on Apple. I'm missing out on the people that are on Amazon. I'm missing out on people that are everywhere else. Why not just concentrate on a few metrics, like how many people are actually coming to me and saying, because of you, I did not give up? That's the only thing you should measure. And a few other things that I will maybe say just so that you keep your sanity in check. But some things that we're measuring, like I mentioned earlier on, mean nothing to the actual growth of a business. Because if you get out of the lane of measuring stuff and you actually do things that are difficult to measure, those are the things that are rewarded. How can you measure creating an iPhone? How can you measure the sleepless nights, the sleeping in the garage, the calls, the emails, and everything else that happens behind the scenes when you're building your business? Like, look at this right now. You're probably walking your dog, or you're probably just sitting in your office and you're listening to me speaking right now. Who is going to measure that as the time when you got the spark that got you that idea, when you called your uncle who lives in Bujumbura, who then basically told you that your cousin in San Francisco knows a thing or two about blogging? Who measures that? Right? But then we want to then measure, okay, so I did this, so I should extrapolate this particular result. Do you even measure how many times you breathe a day? Do you measure how many times you blink a day? But that keeps you alive, doesn't it? The things that we try to measure, like maybe how fast we're going in a distance, how many calories we're eating, and all those things, that's just to keep our ego and our minds busy. When you actually start doing work that matters, right? And you find the energy and commitment to do the things that others might actually find difficult to measure, because the things that are difficult to measure are difficult to actually do. You know why? Because people want gratification, and if they cannot get gratification in numbers or some sort of a crowd approval or applause, then they won't be able to do it, because it doesn't come with a reward. So if you find the energy and commitment to actually do things that others might not easily measure for a short run, is the best way to actually make a difference. Mother Teresa, how are you going to measure how many people she hugged, how many people she talked to? Martin Luther King, that was not the only speech he made. But who measures that? They only measure the one thing that they have a record of. When he was learning to speak, anybody that you respect, how many books do people have to write up until somebody actually grasps the fact that, oh, wait a minute, this person is a genius? If you notice even the work that you've been doing, how many blog posts, how many social media posts have you actually had to put out there up until people started noticing your worth? But if you were measuring everything, you would have stopped a long time ago, because nobody is engaging with your work. I mean, in life, many people believe that the more you have, the better it is. More traffic, more visitors, more customers. Yep, I mean, that's better. No doubt about that. But, more time in your day to do the things that you love, you know what I mean? That's also better. We want that, okay? You get also maybe more collaboration between your sales team and your marketing team, or everybody else in your family, collaboration with your relatives. That's definitely a lot better. But in many areas of marketing, especially content marketing and SEO and anything that has to do with, connecting with other people there, more doesn't necessarily mean better, right? You could have a lot of people that are following you on social media, but none of them are probably your identified market, and they don't even know what it is that you're talking about. You might just have had a viral video, but none of those people are going to be buying from you. you know? Because at the end of the day, we really need to be showing up for the people that we're going to be helping, by actually helping them. How do you measure a hug? How do you measure, a smile? Those are the things that we yearn for from the people that we do stuff for. So maybe you might take your marketing data, for example, though having data about your maybe marketing that you're doing there, your social media is crucial for you to analyze your success and actually make changes, because what's working you keep and what's not working you ditch, right? You literally, you just measure by just looking at what is the responsibility that I actually have and what do people, what are people responding to? And with that in mind, it makes it easy for you to create, relevant content that's out there. It is definitely helpful. And, not only does it save you time, and you learn from your mistakes, but some of the things that we measure are not important at all. You might measure how many times people open your email. Do you know there's softwares that look at emails before they're sent to the actual person? And if you measure that, guess what you're doing? You're speaking to robots, and then you can never win that game. When you first hear about it, the open rate seems like a really great metric to track, because you're sending out cold emails out there and you just want to see how many people are actually opening it. It also, talks to your, innate desire to not be rejected. So if people open your emails, that at least means that, somebody is accepting and approving whatever message you're putting out there. And you assume that it will actually give you an understanding of how people are interested enough to maybe do business with you. Yes, you're probably sending cold emails out there and not even getting as much as, hey, thank you so much for reaching out. And you're counting those open rates. Who is actually opening your emails? It is Google. It is the robots. All those things. And who measures that? So open rates are misleading. They're a big misleading metric for you to measure. It can actually be based upon the email client that somebody's using to open his or her emails. You know what I mean? They want to check if they spam. They want to check if it's the right thing. They probably have filters, and you probably have the same as well. But when it comes to your emails, you think that maybe yours are special. This is because the open is actually counted when maybe images load in the recipient's email. That's considered open. But what if somebody doesn't allow images to load by default? That doesn't count as an open, does it? And what if somebody gets the text-based version of their email? Those folks that don't even want, to read a lot of emails, those emails might actually go through a gatekeeper who is not the actual recipient of the email. So instead of looking at that email rate as a measure of your success, look through maybe a click-through rate at least. How many people then clicked through to whatever place you were taking them to? And I'm supposing that all the emails that you're writing, you're actually just getting people to come back to your website. Otherwise, what's the point? This is an email that will actually allow you to see not just how many people are opening and clicking your email, but it also help you understand how many people are actually interested enough with, regarding the content that you're putting out there. So maybe I've got a question. Do you have any metrics of success, that will give you maybe an idea of what you can expect, when you're maybe looking for a digital agency or you want to work with people? I get that a lot. You know what I mean? Like how are we gonna know? How are we gonna know when we have arrived? Let me tell you something. All those email open rates, all those Facebook likes, all those ad impressions, all those blog comments, they literally are false metrics appearing real. Get that? False metrics appearing real. Just because they're easy to measure, it doesn't mean that they matter. If they appear in, like, say, maybe an easy number to speak at a barbecue or a round number, and that is easily compared to what others are receiving within your industry, we are tempted to measure, we're tempted to compare. Yes, they say what doesn't get measured doesn't get fixed, but how do you measure a hug? How do you measure telling your story? How do you measure connecting with your audience? How do you measure literally being there for the people that you're going to be demanding money off of? Sometimes some metrics look like they're useful metrics, but they might not be. An ad impression. This is basically somebody who has seen your ad or scrolled past it. And if you're working with people who say that they care about measurement, I think it's time that you literally consider who you're paying your money, especially if you're paying a digital marketing agency. And that's the reason why I take it upon myself to help coaches and consultants with their content marketing, their digital marketing, their social media, and anything to do with growing their business. All right. Here at Live Long Digital, you actually find resources that I haven't measured, whether they're, how many people have downloaded or not. But I've got enough content for you to actually start, scale, and grow a business that's profitable and enjoyable. And this resource or this content piece, in the form of this podcast, is going to help you tell your story. It's going to help you communicate your value. It's going to help you put together a marketing strategy that actually converts clients. How do you measure that, bro? How do you measure that, sis? So if you're working with people who say they care about measurement, it might not pay to persuade them to stop measuring. I mean, it doesn't matter. You do you. But I'm just trying to tell you that stop measuring things that don't actually matter, okay? Because all these matrix that you think, putting the dial working or whatever, these are just false matrix appearing real. All right? It might make more sense to do work that matters for people who care. So when people ask me, what can I expect when I start blogging? What can I expect when I start, content marketing? I get this question or some sort of variation of it all the time. And it's completely reasonable because we were taught, like I said, to measure things as a way of proving our own worth. Maybe you need to do a bit of work on yourself if you're going to be affected by how many people click on your links. If you're doing it for vanity metrics, I advise that you stop because you're boldly going nowhere. And as coaches, consultants, and small business owners, when we dump time, energy, and money into something like marketing, we want to know where that money is going. We want to see some sort of return. But marketing is basically helping other people make sense of the world around them. How do you measure that? And unfortunately, while it's important to maybe track some sort of KPI from time to time to get started, it's also easy to just get lost in that sea of data and lose sight of the actual progress that you're making, to lose sight of the actual value that you're putting out there in the marketplace. We don't get paid by the number of clicks that we get. We get paid in direct proportion to the value we bring to the marketplace. So are people actually converting and coming to your site? Because that's what matters. All the work that we're doing at least should be directing people back to your website. And I mean, this might seem very obvious. Are you actually getting traffic, with the work that you're putting out there? But tracking the traffic on your site or on your blog is an actual healthy indicator to see if people are actually resonating with the message that you're putting out there. I mean, you can also track when the traffic spikes, and then you look at what made that spike and do more of what is working. Instead of using that as a badge of honor, you literally just use it as a way of being of service. And if you know what days are actually resonating with a lot of people, then you work harder on those days so that you can actually schedule your work and be consistent on those days and actually aim to drive traffic back to your website so you can convert that traffic into, clients that pay, stay, and refer. When you learn discernment, when you actually learn, measuring what matters, you literally will create for and relate to an audience, and people will actually seek you when you're gone. When you actually start ranking the unrankable, things that people never expected to see. I mean, there's useful measures of your time, useful measures of your money, etc. It makes it easy because when you measure things, right, it makes ranking them effective and it enables us to make better choices and scale up our operations. But sometimes some things don't really need to be measured. All right. And half of the time when you measure maybe how many leads that actually convert are coming from a certain traffic source, you double down on that traffic source. I don't have social media simply because of the fact that I do understand that my kind of client doesn't necessarily sit back and scroll through social media. Because when you know when your actual traffic that converts is coming from, it actually helps you to hone on the aspects of your marketing, making it easy so that you're not spraying and praying, and you can determine what media you can actually use to reach out there. So if you notice that maybe a lot of your blog traffic is coming from a certain social media channel, wouldn't you actually then double down on that? I mean, it might sound like I'm contradicting myself, but a lot of people are sitting there and just measuring things that don't actually matter. You know, if you're true to yourself, if you're consistent, measure how often you're showing up. Measure how many people are coming to you saying, thank you so much for whatever you're doing for us. You know, and one other thing that we should know is past performance is not an indicator of what the future results give, unless it's in the stock market, and it's also a variable there. You know, because some people want to measure how they did in the past, and they want to use that as a way of, refining and being lazy about actually creating value for the audience out there. There's never going to be an overnight success story. If you hear about people that have engaged their tribes, if you hear about people that have got a lot of subscribers, that takes time. That takes effort. It takes unpredictable amount of money, space, everything, and really trying to figure out what is actually working and then doubling down on that, because not everyone is going to have the same result, even if you put in the same metrics in there. I really hope that this podcast is gonna sit somewhere in the corner of your mind, so that you literally know what it is that you're measuring and actually do more work that matters for people who care. You know, yes, we might have email subscribers, we might have social followers out there. Now, the key when you're tracking this is not the size of the following, but the positive response that you actually get from these people. Let me tell you something. You are always going to have people that unsubscribe. You're always going to have people that unfollow. Don't let that get to you. Don't let that hurt you as if it's rejection on your message or anything else like that. It is actually a good thing. You know why? Because these people have actually realized, wait a minute, this might not be for me. So they're not going to waste your time sitting out and asking you questions of things that you're like, wait a minute, I could have just been doing more work that actually matters. Because it's an easy trap to think that everybody that's in your following actually is going to convert. Because let me tell you something, the prospects that are the easiest to engage with online, the ones that, that believe all your promises, all your simple, prospects and things like that, are usually the lowest value customer. Those people that are showing up every time, that are always liking, posting, and commenting, they're usually the people that don't even pay you money, or they're usually people in your industry, and they just, stroking your ego, yet they're not, stroking your bank account. In life, you know that the person who is easiest to get on a first date might not be the person that you actually marry. You know? I kid you not. When you are dating or whatever it is, the people that you take out on a lot of dates are not the people that you normally marry. It's easy to get a first meeting with people or maybe make a first sale, but most of those people are not long-term clients. They're people that are just early adopters, just wanting to check out your system. So don't be fooled by all those subscribers that you might have. It might be people that are just, trying to check you out and see what your systems are like. So if all you're doing is just measuring the response rate on your initial pitches, you're just going to maybe, fall for those people that are just checking out what you're doing. These are not usually the long-term people that actually make you build, your business or earn some sort of a reputation. So maybe you're receiving a lot of replies in your marketing campaigns, or maybe you've got a lot of social media, people liking, commenting, and sharing your posts. They might be engaged, but half of the time, these people don't actually stay with it for the long haul because they're just interested to be the first in line. So, my friend, the whole point of this is I want you to be aware of that overnight success story. You know, it takes 21 years to be 21 years old. All right? You just don't buy history. You got to earn it. You know, keep in mind, blogging, podcasting, showing up, and being of value, it takes a tremendous amount of your time, your effort, and everything else. And some of the things that we're doing don't even need to be measured. If you're doing business that matters, think of it as a long-term marketing strategy. And I know it's tempting to look for the overnight success results, you know, but you're better off staying consistent and watching for that positive data, that response that people come to you and say, thank you so much. You've made my life better. Because in today's world, it's so easy to get caught up in you know, the possibility of having thousands and thousands of followers and seeing your blog post go viral or being a TikTok sensation. But the true success is defined by actually doing good work, doing work that matters, and having successful, you know, testimonials and results from people that are going to be screaming at the top of their lungs, you know, your praises to their family, to their anyone at a barbecue or anyone they meet on a bus. You need to make sure that you're resonating with the people that you're going to be demanding, you know, money off of, and you continue to focus on doing the good work that you're already doing and build your business one piece of content at a time. Yes, you can track those KPIs just to keep yourself in check, but make sure you're doing the right things. Because if all you're doing is just measuring the response rate of the people that show up, you're going to be reading, you're going to be doing a lot of groundwork without actually creating something of, you know, of note. All right. It's an easy trap because those people that show up at first are just usually easy, you know, early adopters. They might not be the people that actually, you know, make a lasting impression. Like I say, I build strategies for coaches and consultants, you know, so they can master their marketing, because I firmly believe that you are changing the world. Even if you're doing it one life, one person, you know, one course at a time. Together, you, my clients, and my team, I want to help you develop and implement a unique content marketing plan that actually converts people and converts them into clients that pay, stay, and refer. I can't wait to see you in the long run. Bye for now.
Thank you for joining us today. If you have any questions, let's continue the conversation in the Live Long Digital community. Become a Live Long Digital community member today. This community is for ambitious entrepreneurs and small business owners with the drive to take control of the future of their businesses and achieve huge success without stress and overwhelm. As you heard, Prosper can help you by teaching you marketing strategies that work. So look no further than the Live Long Digital community of entrepreneurs and highly successful business owners. Join our community today. Find us on www.community.livelongdigital.com.au. Network with other driven entrepreneurs and find the expert guidance you need to take your business to the next level. www.community.livelongdigital.com.au